Hi there. Today's video is part of the critical thinking theme promoted by TLOB. It's on the subject of understanding atheism and it's presented as part of the Problem With series. No alcohol involved in this one, unfortunately. First of all, I want to point out that it will not be a promotion or a critique of either atheism or theism. It will simply be an explanation of common misunderstandings surrounding the use of these words and hopefully allow us to think more critically about the way we use words and question if the way we use them is in fact rational. So, let's start by trying to understand some definitions. If you do this by assuming that all you have to do is read your preferred dictionary to understand what a word means, then you've just fallen at the first hurdle. Sadly, many people believe that dictionaries are some form of arbiter about what a word should actually mean. Everyone who believes this should memorize this phrase. Dictionaries are descriptive, not prescriptive. In short, dictionaries tell us how people currently use a word, not what it should mean. This is why dictionaries are constantly updated. The way we use words not only changes, but each word can have multiple usages at any one time. What you should do when discussing a subject with anyone is understand how they are using a word, then let them know what you mean when you use a word. If the usages differ, then agree to discuss the concepts attached to each usage, so you both know what the other is talking about. Now, let's look at atheism. Should we examine the usages of atheism? Well, in this case, since atheism is in fact a noun formed by adding the a at the start of another noun to indicate without theism, then it makes sense to look at the root noun first. So let's start by looking at the usages of theism. Source here is dictionary.com. Noun. One. That's the first usage. The belief in one God as the creator and ruler of the universe. Two. The second usage. Belief in the existence of a God or gods. Two usages that are currently used. Looking at these usages, it can be inferred that anyone who fits usage 1 will automatically be covered by usage 2. 1 is therefore a subset of 2. So now, let's look at the usages of atheism. The noun. 1. The doctrine or belief that there is no God. 2. Disbelief in the existence of a supreme being or beings. So once again, looking at these usages, it can be inferred that anyone who fits usage 1 will automatically be covered by usage 2. 1, therefore, is a subset of 2. Now, for simplicity's sake, for both words, let's continue with the usages described under number 2 each time, as it clearly encapsulates both usages. So, regarding the question, do you believe gods exist? Well, ignoring all the rabbit holes we can go down with reference to words God or exist, the question clearly pertains to a person's belief. And this is where most people go off the rails. How? By failing to recognise that belief is in fact binary. For any one claim, you either do believe it or you don't. There's no middle ground. But, I hear you say, why can't I just say I don't know? Well, that's because you're not answering the question. The question is about what you believe, and saying I don't know is telling us about your knowledge. We are, of course, now straying into the territory of Gnosticism and agnosticism. And we're all familiar with the use of agnosticism as the cop-out mythical position of neither believing nor not believing, a state that is impossible to be in. Let me demonstrate this with why it's impossible with the flip of a coin. So, I flip a coin and cover it. I say to somebody, an observer, do you believe it's heads? They say, I don't know. And I say, I know you don't know, but I'm asking you what you believe. Do you believe it's heads? And the observer would say, until I see the coin, I can't believe it's heads. Therefore, I would say, so you don't believe it's heads, which would meet the response, no, I don't believe it's heads, but I don't believe it's tails either. And I say, that's fine. As not believing either until there is evidence either way is the logical default position. So, let's assume that we all accept that belief is binary, for now. Anxiety levels usually rocket at this point as many people realise they can't cop out by claiming the neutral position of agnosticism and therefore feel they're being forced to say, I don't believe God exists. But what they fail to understand is that they are incorrectly equating the statement, I don't believe God exists, with the statement, I believe God does not exist. I'll say that again in case you missed it. I did fluff it slightly. I do not believe God exists is not the same as saying, I believe God does not exist. To demonstrate, let's look at the claims about God. The question asked was A, do you believe God exists? You can answer this with either yes, I believe God exists, or no, I do not believe God exists. But we could also have asked, do you believe God does not exist? Your answer can either be yes, I believe God does not exist, or no, I do not believe God does not exist. That's a double negative, by the way, which means you do. This therefore means a theist answering the first question, do you believe God exists, would say, yes, I believe God exists. Therefore, on answering the second question, do you believe God does not exist, they would say, no, I do not believe God does not exist. And they would be consistent there. So, an atheist answering question A, the first question, which is, do you believe God exists? They would say, no, I do not believe God exists. However, on answering the second question, do you believe God does not exist? They could answer, yes, I believe God does not exist. But they could equally answer and be just as correct to say, no, I do not believe God does not exist. In short, an atheist can have a lack of belief in either proposition. Why? Because it's the same situation as being the observer of a coin flip. As long as there is a hand on top of the coin, you're justified in not believing the coin is heads and simultaneously not believing the coin is tails. The trick is to remember that we're talking about what you believe and not what you know. So let's review this by introducing a Venn diagram. Okay, so first of all, this is the circle, and in there represents the entire population on the planet. The second circle, excuse these horrible circles, this represents all the theists on the planet, a theist being anyone who believes there is a god or gods. So that means everything inside this area here, outside the inner circle, they're all atheists because they don't believe a God exists. And in there you can put another circle, and these are the people that believe there is no God. They're still atheists, they just add a claim on top of their disbelief that there is a God. They disbelieve there is a God, and they also believe there is no God. That would be a claim they would have to prove, but they're still atheists. But just because these people here don't believe there is a God doesn't mean they are saying they believe there is no God. Hopefully that clears one or two things. I'd love to hear your comments and questions. Click the subscribe and all the usual stuff, and I'll talk to you again soon.